They're getting it.
So it
They're
is.
starting to click.
All right, good evening, everyone.
There's some owners.
Welcome to the Peterborough Select Board meeting for May 2nd, 2023. We just got out of our public session, so we'll reconvene now. Tyler Ward. With me at the table are fellow Select Board members Bill Kennedy and Bill Taylor. We have Town Administrator Nicole McStay here and Assistant to the Town Administrator Ali Kreutz. And then as people come up for their section, we'll introduce everyone. Please, anybody that would like to speak tonight, just raise your hand, we'll call on you, and just state your name for the record for Ali's minutes. And of course, we all know each other anyway, but that's good to do. Tim's behind the scenes capturing this tonight in Brunswick, yeah, great. And then our agenda this evening, we have a petition for traffic calming measures on Union Street. We may vote to proclaim May as Building Safety Month. Tim can sell it well. Authorization to submit a grant for townhouse piano restoration under the Conservation License Plate Program. Consideration of purchasing policy relative to obtaining civil engineering services for the fire station. Vote to formally change the Affordable Housing Subcommittee of the Economic Development Authority to simply Affordable Housing Committee. That's a proper change. And then we have some old business. We'll appoint some members and volunteers to committees and reappoint others. We have updates from Seth McLean, Department of Public Works Director, and then we'll possibly vote to approve amended minutes from April 18th. With that, welcome Matt Wakens and Robert Wood. You guys here to speak about Union Street?
Well, I don't know that, I'm Robert Wood. I don't know that we planned to speak. We thought we would gladly answer any questions you might have about it. I think we stated pretty much everything there was in the petition itself and the cover letter.
Sure.
So I don't know if you have any questions about it, but Matt and I both live at the beginning of Union Street on a straightaway, which causes problems. People like to go fast on a straightaway. We've been trying to slow traffic down there in various ways for years, but it doesn't seem to work. So that's why this petition, and we would like the town to take it seriously and maybe do something about it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys, other than seeing that we were on the agenda, if you saw the petition we put together.
Read it,
Okay.
saw the names. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a range of people that signed it.
Yeah, and we, kind of following up on what Woody said, we're not looking for high dollar kind of improvements type of thing. I mean, we started out thinking, my attitude is we can do things like, with pavement markings to kind of visually narrow the road. That's a method for slowing traffic down type of thing. So, pavement markings, that type of thing. A sign as you come up over the hill from Main Street that says "Welcome to the Union Street neighborhood." Some of those simple things that could make a difference. When Woody and I walked around, and knocked on doors. Most people answered the door, some didn't, but everybody we talked to thought that it would be a great idea if we could slow traffic down, type of thing. And so that's kind of where we're at. We had some other ideas. I've said for a long time, I think the five-way intersection, up here is, it's a sea of asphalt. It's not pretty. And Peterborough kind of prides itself on being really nice and such. And, I think that intersection could be much nicer looking. I'm not suggesting that we change the traffic pattern or anything like that. I mean, you all know there's that triangle painted right there. And most people understand that you go around that. Some people miss it, but I think most people don't. I also, Seth could speak to this better than I could, but, there's an issue with water, stormwater sheeting across that, ending up down on River Street. I think that my understanding is that's going to need to be improved eventually. Water infiltrating down into into that intersection rather than sheeting across. I know you guys know about that, that concept. So part of a bigger picture to improving, slowing traffic on Union Street would be making that intersection nicer. And, in that triangle, that, perhaps could be, longer term, water can infiltrate in there. Maybe it's raised and there's, flowers in there every year or something like that. One of the things I thought about too is I don't know that, I don't think there's really good data on whether people are speeding or not. And I know that the police, do what they can to have, to measure that. But I don't think that is necessarily an effective way of measuring the speed of traffic. If you put a police car on the side of Union Street to measure how fast people are going, well, what do people do when they see a police car? They slow down. So, I suggest that we gather data and just, quietly. There's that, when the road was repaved, we ended up getting a signpost and that speed feedback sign right on my driveway, and I was fine with that. That was there for a while and went away and never came back, and I don't know if that particular machine still exists, but I'm fine with it being stuck back up there. Don't turn on the feedback part that says this is how fast you're going, but just, for a month, gather data, how fast people are driving. Just have some good data to see what really is going on. So.
And I just want to mention also that Matt has been working in transportation planning for the last 25 years, so he knows something about it. Also, I don't know if you read the information sheet or not, or looked it over, but the bottom portion of it has ideas that we already had a discussion with Seth about. Some of them are, low-cost ideas that Matt mentioned, but they're on that list, and Seth seemed to think in our discussion that those were all plausible ideas. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, please do.
And the only other thing I would say is there's that graphic about the impact on the fatality rate compared to as a function of how fast the vehicle is going. And what is 20 miles per hour is a 5% chance of being fatally injured in a collision between a pedestrian and a car. And you get up to 30 miles per hour and 40, that really starts going up exponentially. And so I can leave it at this, but when you think about it, the speed limit's 25. If people are given, and I think I don't have it in front of me, the probability of a fatal collision with a pedestrian at 25 miles per hour is whatever it is.
20 miles an hour is 10%.
Yeah, and at 35, it's
40%.
Yeah. So, the speed limit's 25. If you're given, which is that much lower fatality rate, you get up to 35 miles per hour, you're pushing a 40% chance of being really badly injured if you were hit by a car. And so my point is that if it's 25 mile per hour speed limit and you're allowed 35, there's a big difference in the chance of a really serious injury. So that's why I don't think vehicles should be allowed to drive 35 miles per hour down the road. So it's a safety issue.
Down at the far end, the 101 end of Union, it's 30, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
Right. Seth?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to this?
Say that again, Tyler?
Do you have anything to add to this?
No, I appreciate it. I think from my perspective, there's an opportunity. We know we've got work to do at the five-way intersection. Everybody knows that drives through their residence. We've all become accustomed to going through there, but that is a bit of, as Matt described it, a sea of asphalt and could use a little help. From an infrastructure perspective, the part that didn't, or maybe basically minimally touched on, we do have some issues with sheeting of stormwater through that area down Elm Street, which is contributing to the deterioration of the Elm Street Bridge, which a lot of us in the room have considered through the CIP process the last 2 years, which is going to need some substantial renovation work here in the next couple of years, and flooding on River Street, quite honestly. We have a couple residents that are in regularly after rainstorms that are dealing with the water that runs off, starting up by the school, coming down High Street, coming down that whole area and sheeting down into River Street. So I think there's an opportunity, because we really should be looking at that intersection with an eye towards the Elm Street Bridge as well. I think there's some good ideas from my perspective that should be researched. I think there's some minimal things that we can do in the short term that might help. Matt talked about the radar feedback signs, which we do still have. One was mounted on a police trailer, which gets moved around. As we get complaints about speeding around town, we repurposed the old police trailer and put one of those signs on that. So we do still have one. One of the challenges that we faced when we were using those signs on Union Street was that some people want them, some people called and complained because they're sort of bright and they're flashing at you at 9:30 at night. We have some parameters we can set where we can turn that off and on. Therein lies a problem there as well, because if we leave them on at night, people tend to get a little upset if they're in the window. So before you jump in, I would say one thing I think I could do, our department could do, is see if we can get someone who's willing to allow us the permission to put it. Matt's already offered, but
My driveway.
yeah, I think that captures one direction, but these are not bi-directional signs, so you
Oh,
really
okay.
have to catch the other side coming from Main Street as well. And I'll need to find someone who's comfortable with that, and then hopefully talk to the residents adjacent so they're not frustrated by the lights.
Well, as Matt said, the flashing function we don't think is really necessary to capture the data. So those things will capture data without flashing, correct?
They will. You can turn the screen off, and we did that
Right.
and provided traffic data, which didn't suggest significant speeding problems in the area at the time. So your letter does state updated traffic information, so that would do this as well. And I just can't recall, going back to I think 2016, 17, whether or not we had the feedback on or off at the time.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely no harm in putting the signs back up, off, and collect more data and see where we're at this point. Things do change, patterns change, people move in, habits change. But we do have a considerable amount of PD data, police department data as well. The chief, knowing this was on the agenda, provided some information on number of citations. Just so we're clear, and I mentioned I would mention these, there have been about 60 directed patrols over the last year. Whether that's the appropriate number given the traffic volume, I'm not qualified to suggest otherwise. 50 warnings issued and 10 motor vehicle summons were issued. So there is some level of enforcement happening there. I think that should be noted. It's not that the police department in town just ignores Union Street. They're dealing with similar issues in other places as well, but they are present as they can be. So back to my original point, though, I think it makes sense that we, especially going into next fiscal year, take a look at that five-way intersection. We could engage with a qualified civil engineering firm, qualified in traffic studies as well. Possibly Southwest Regional Planning Commission as well can help us with some additional traffic counts. But I think that we have some options as we head into next year to start looking at that. And not just from, the neighborhood perspective, but also the neighborhood perspective, because you're paying a tax bill for that infrastructure that we also need to maintain. So there's a couple opportunities here on this. And I think it would be worthy to spend a little time actually looking at this.
And there is some development going on up past the field by New Manusett Village there, so there will be more traffic on that road. Do we allow on-street parking on Union Street?
Depends on where on Union Street.
Not on that section.
No, that's
Not on that section, no.
because it's
too
just
narrow.
simply too narrow.
Yeah.
But the idea of, paint it goes a long way to,
Yeah,
That-
you know what, when the road was repaved, we ended up, paving those white fog lines, on the outside that define the shoulder. Those were painted to define a 20-foot travel way, which is, that helps. That paint has faded. It's, long gone. And I also think that it would be, a little unusual, but it's been done in other places. Whereas those shoulders were, again, it was a 20-foot travel way with that solid white line. There's one application could be a dashed white line that's even narrower, defines a much narrower travel way. And the idea is that, again, the idea is you visually narrow the road, theoretically you slow down traffic. And if that outside fog line is actually dashed, people just already know, you've done it all your life, you can kind of go over a dashed line if it's a bigger, wider shoulder and you're defining, instead of 20-foot travel way, 10 feet in each direction, it's, less than that, 8 feet in each direction. You have a wider shoulder, it's narrower, and when cars approach each other head-on, you can go into that, you can go over the dash line. It's not like it's a barrier. It's done in other places. It's an option, something to think about. But we don't have to take up your time figuring out design.
I have a feeling that the people that are conscientious enough to play by the rules that you just stated are not the ones that are going 40 miles an hour in the first place, So, what about like when you're at work, can a cruiser park in your driveway?
Sure.
Because one of the challenges they have there is there's no place for a cruiser to park where they don't just go slow because they see a cruiser. There's no gotcha area,
Yeah.
But, and then as far as
Can we
those
get
signs.
magnets for Matt's car, so when he is there, it's
Yeah.
traffic enforcement.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, and putting one of the signs there, I mean, it's fine to gather data, and it wasn't very long ago, Seth, that the one that was just before the rec department was moved someplace else, like a little further out here in the street or whatever. They're around, so. You personally would rather see data collected and let people continue to speed, or why not just turn the thing on? Because they do work, well, slowing people
I think the
down.
data collection is for longer-term planning and doing a project like real traffic control, like installation of a stop sign at the 5-way intersection, et cetera. I don't know the specifics about traffic planning, but I personally don't think that more police presence is a long-term answer. They're there so infrequently and for such short periods of time. It really is not effective long-term. I think what we need are, for the consultant's going to need data to look at. That's the reason for the collection of the data, I think. I'm getting data every day that I'm out in front of my house in my driveway. I see how fast people are going, so.
You mentioned that before at another meeting, somebody has a camera where they were able to figure out how fast people were going.
I think there's someone down the street that
Was
does
pretty
some-
sure he had
some calculation
Yeah.
thing.
You know what I noticed once when there was a similar thing going on Old Street Road is that there was a group of people that met up with one of our officers, one of the only ones that's certified to use like the handheld radar gun, and sat there with a bunch of the neighbors and said, okay, how fast do you think that car is going? They're like, 65. But it's like 41.
Yeah.
When you're standing on the side of the road and you're seeing cars come and go, I mean, everybody knows it. It seems like they're going a heck of a lot faster than they are. But
Yeah.
I'm curious. Union Street has an extraordinary amount of traffic calming things, humps and curbs.
more than anywhere in town.
As in anywhere in town. What makes Union Street unique? Do you get more traffic than other streets in
No.
town, or?
I don't think it's unique at all. I think people speed, there's a there are people that speed that, they just do. Not everybody, but a significant number of people do. I don't think it's unique to Union Street.
Definitely not.
And if they continue to speed, are these traffic calming measures effective? I mean,
Personally, I don't think they are. The speed humps are, actually, I think some drivers actually increase their speed because it's fun to go over them. I don't think they're effective, frankly.
But
Hi, Al Lemus. I would, my observation is, because I live near there, I use that intersection every day, maybe several times, and there seems to be, it's anecdotal, there just seems to be more traffic in general. Now, maybe it's because the bridge traffic has changed the pattern. People cut through there to get to 101 instead of going through town, or instead of going through the 101 bridge under construction. It could be, once that's settled, things will have changed the pattern a little bit, so it could be temporary. But there's a lot of traffic there, for one thing, and I always watch that stop sign, because people coming into town from Union Street don't always stop at that stop sign.
Right.
So I'm always caught in the middle of the intersection now, are they gonna stop or not? You know, and I slow down enough to be sure that they're gonna stop. So a bigger stop sign with the little lights that go around the stop sign, it's a little corny, but those may work. It's just a couple more colorful stop, not colorful, there's different shades of red I've seen, and bigger signs that might at least make you stop and think, for those people who, as you said, are prone to thinking in the first place.
Right.
I just, yeah. I think those speed tables out in West Peterborough were properly designed, and the one that's right near my house, not as well, but I agree. I don't think it needs to be there anymore. I advocated for it, and now I don't really think it necessarily works.
How about rumble strips? Would you like rumble strips?
No. No, but
Like they have on 101.
I can hear
That goes
them.
through the valley.
now I do think though that pavement markings. I know it's not really cheap necessarily to paint the fog lines on Union Street. I'm sure that's thousands of dollars, but it's relatively low cost. I think that can happen. Again, things like signs entering Union Street neighborhood. And I do think that so I would like to see those short-term, lower-cost things tried anyway. I don't, because again, right now, Union Street at our end, is straight away, which just makes your car go faster, and there's no fog lines. It's just a 23.5-foot wide, pavement. And it would better than nothing if we could paint those at some point, those fog lines. And I do think long-term that really ought to think about that intersection should be nicer. I was thinking that, I don't know how you guys would feel about this, no decision has to be made, but I think...
What feel?
But I think we should have a neighborhood block party someday on Memorial Day weekend and put planters in that triangle with, petunias in them or whatever. For plant them, make it nice. It's ugly. It needs to be changed. Peterborough's supposed to be a really pretty town, and that is not nice there. And I think doing all that would calm traffic.
All right.
So anyway.
Well, it's been brought to our attention.
Yeah.
Discussed. I think Seth is on board,
Yeah.
and we can you can work on getting the blinky sign back there pointed in Matt's window.
I'm saying
And
don't
then
turn it
maybe
on.
shut it off.
I just say don't turn it on. I'm not convinced.
I mean, if you're looking for accurate traffic info, then turning it on won't give you that, so.
We can certainly do
That's
both.
fine, but anyways, it's been discussed, right?
Yes. Thank you.
There's a sign on Old Street Road that monitors speed.
Two.
That's
There's several.
two, yeah.
Yeah.
Summer Street, they're all
Those are
over.
permanently installed.
We don't have one on Union Street, though.
I have the pictures.
Does that collect data?
Yeah,
They work quite nice.
it does. Those are permanently installed on Union Street.
Okay,
A
so
little
we
bit more
will have,
bright sign.
we'll have data to compare.
Sure, yeah. So if I'm understanding correctly, we'll research and implement some low-cost solutions that don't necessarily require traffic engineering. But it sounds to me, if I'm reading between the lines, that the board is generally in favor of starting some element of design for the five-way, which may also impact the Elm Street Bridge project and the intersection by Union Street.
Yes.
We should do some design work there, but I think gathering that initial data as to how big a problem really is it. I think it's a problem all around town,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
having that data to show, I think, is a good idea. And do we have the equipment to do that?
Yeah.
Yes, we've done it in that spot before, yeah.
Okay.
Great, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
for
thanks
hearing
for
us out.
bringing
Appreciate
bringing
it.
up. On the work, getting other people involved.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for your
Oh,
time.
no, now you still had to wait for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, I know. I have
can go up and watch traffic. I mean,
All right, now,
He's got a trap door installed.
Hampshire's building inspector of the year is here. In terms forever now. So that's how you shall be named forever. So, welcome Tim Hurley.
Thank you, Sway.
It is May.
It is May. So I've come to the board in the town of Peterborough to ask for the signing of the proclamation for ICC's Building Safety Month for the month of May. And I'll read this to you quick and I'll leave it at that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Whereas our town is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike, and whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, both safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, I'll add electricians, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings, and whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the building environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play, and whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes, and whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, both building and fire, as we said before, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity, and whereas it, quote unquote, it starts with you. The theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to us all by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, we, the Select Board of Peterborough, New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join us as we participate in Building Safety Month activities. There's a whole website from ICC. If anyone has any questions, you can contact me. You can Google ICC Building Safety Month, and they have a whole program for each week of the month of May on guides and tips on how to make your home better, how to make your workplace safer, and just general building awareness. And so with that, I thank you.
So let it be written, so let it be done. Right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We signed it already. We knew we were going to vote in favor of it. I think we have to vote on it.
Yes, yeah, actually
But we,
vote.
well, I make the motion, we accept that proclamation as written and read.
Check.
Anyone want to contest this? All right, all in favor? Aye. Thanks.
Thank you.
So Tim, while we have you here,
Yes.
not many building permits going out recently. Is it dropped way off?
It's not that it's dropped off. It's a combination of, I have been working on the Southfield project to get those going, and with a little bit of a minor issue of numbering, essentially, in the program. We're trying to get those addressed so that I can get those issued. But that did take up a group of my time, and then it's been a catch-up for several other projects, some big homes that took a bunch of time, but all the little stuff has been going on
We
as
keep you
normal.
busy. We keep
Yeah.
you busy.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I see, in our packet, we get the building
Sure.
permits, and I
Sure.
think there was only one.
Yeah, so
this week.
you should very soon be seeing that list grow.
Very good.
As long as I don't have to sign anything.
No.
Oh, my God.
You get one.
And though we include, speaking from the assessing standpoint, though we include the building permits in the packet, we do also get the certificate of occupancies from
sure.
TIP, so
Oh,
we
right.
can see when projects are finished. And I have noticed a few of those coming in, so even though those aren't in the packet, there has been activity there
Oh, yeah.
where projects have been finished.
And all the incidentals, the
Yeah.
electrical permits and plumbing and all that stuff is still,
So I was just concerned about the vibrancy of the,
Oh, no.
it's like.
there's still plenty to do.
No buildings going up? What? Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you do a great job.
Thank you.
All
Take the
right.
rest of the day off, Tim.
I think I will.
Do we have a town sanctioned piano player?
We do not have an official town piano player. Are you volunteering?
No.
No.
So, but we do have a piano.
We
sure
have a
do.
piano, Yes.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Lisa Sieverts from Nelson,
Hi, Lisa.
and I'm here representing the Monadnock Folklore Society, and am here to support the grant application to the state for money to restore the piano.
Gotcha. So certainly, as someone that would rent the townhouse and then use that piano, right, it's a good feature to have that piano.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's, I mean, it's been used for contra dances for
Oh, yeah.
probably 100 years.
It's got Bob McQueen.
How's the band?
Yeah.
It's all over it.
It
Yeah,
has,
Mac was a big fan of that piano.
Yeah.
So was it broken or it just needs some help?
it is
It is broken.
It is broken.
Who broke it?
It was, so it often needs to be moved from on the stage, off the stage, and back up again. And during one of those moves, it was damaged. So,
And it's,
Sorry,
Yeah.
we had done some minimal repairs
Right.
to it, probably in 2015 or 16 after that move, but the extent of the damage exceeded our availability of funding at the time.
yeah.
and
playable.
And it's 100 years of wear and tear as well. So it's time to invest in it. This grant gets us part of the way to the full restoration. My group will step up to help with fundraising for the remaining amount, and I feel fairly optimistic about being able to do that.
Nice. And does it have a matching bench? And I ask because we're in the bench making
Oh,
business
right.
now. And I'm wondering if a nice piano bench could be made out of our recycled.
I'm not sure if it's original to the piano. but it
Exactly.
definitely-
Yeah, there is a bench, not sure it's original.
You know what could happen with the, I'm sure you're familiar with Quack Fest that's coming up?
Yes, in fact, actually, when I realized that was Tim over there, I realized, I need to talk to him. But yes, I'm also one of the organizers for that event,
Well,
honoring
excellent.
the
I was a
McClellan
big- I was a
Centennial.
big fan, so we could do a donation thing during that, because Mac spent a lot of time on that piano.
Absolutely, right. I mean, if this piano, it's sort of a long story. I've had many conversations, especially with Gretchen, and some with Seth as well. At first I thought this would be like a 2024 project, but when we found out about this grant, New Hampshire Council on the Arts has the money now. This is the type of project they want to give that money to. It seemed like, okay, let's strike while the iron is hot and get this started. I think from perspective of the history of the town, the fact that the piano's been here since the dedication of the townhouse, there are many historic, artistic, and frankly sentimental reasons to restore that piano.
I can't imagine why we wouldn't want to.
Right, so what do we need, a motion to approve applying for the grant?
Yes.
Okay, so moved.
I'll second.
All right, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, yeah, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, well, you're very, very welcome. Thanks for your support. We look forward to doing whatever we can to help with the project as
So
well.
now, every second and third Tuesday, there'll be someone upstairs playing piano for us to enjoy during our meetings, hopefully.
I bet it can be arranged, so, yeah.
Thanks, Lee.
So I just wanted,
Yeah,
All right,
if you'd like to do.
okay, yes.
Next.
Seth, we have
Okay, sure.
consideration of civil engineering services.
Yeah, so thank you. As our fire station project moves forward, we've had our first meeting with our group and our construction management firm, Harvey Construction. And through that dialogue, a good point was raised, something that had been considered, but time is of the essence, so figured it would make sense to bring this to the board relatively quickly. And that is hopefully your willingness to waive the purchasing policy and allow us, the town staff, to engage with a qualified civil engineering firm directly. Oftentimes these projects either go that direction where your project owner, city, town will hire the civil engineer independent, or it will fall under the umbrella of the architect. And there's quite a few reasons why it makes sense and why more often than not it's procured directly through the owner. I can go through a few of those with you. So that's essentially what I'm asking here. I would like to work with trying to develop a scope and fee with Holden Tanner, who we all have a lot of experience with and has a lot of experience with this specific project. They were the sub-consultant civil engineer that was retained by HKT Architects through our design process, or schematic design process the year prior. But there's a number of reasons why it makes sense to go this route, so hopefully you'll hear me out. Flexibility and representation with design by the civil firm working directly for the owner allows us a little bit more control over the project when it comes to siting the project. Obviously, I already mentioned Holden Tanner has no learning curve on this. They've already been involved with the project and developed the first set of civil plans that we already have. Obviously, civil engineering firm, just generally speaking, are going to be the ones that guide you through the permitting process, alteration of terrain, wetlands, any other wetland impacts, and other permits that may be required. You're going to need a qualified civil engineer in the project anyway. They typically work directly with the owners, like I said. Again, it allows us the flexibility to work with them as another project partner as opposed to them falling under the umbrella of an architect. And like I already said, they have extensive knowledge of the site, and it makes sense to retain their services given our relationship with them at this point. So that's essentially what I'm asking.
And so waiving which portion of the policy?
The purchasing policy is if we were to go directly through the architect would procure those services under their umbrella, thereby they'd be working and reporting to them. Otherwise, our purchasing policy requires that we go out to bid for projects of a certain value. This one would be a little tough because this would be more of a schedule of hourly rates, given it's not really a lump sum kind of job. So normally we'd go out and we'd solicit bids from 3 qualified civil engineering firms for this project, go through a selection process, like we recently did with our construction management firm. This allows us to work directly with who we already know on a project they're familiar with without going through that process.
And get started quicker, and
Much
just for the record that I'm, pretty involved with that whole thing, and that would be my recommendation as well.
Anybody else have any questions about that?
It seems pretty reasonable to me that we would work directly with, particularly since they have a history at that site.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need an architect marking up their
No.
services either.
No, that's true.
All right. So I'd make that motion that we
Authorize.
authorize, yeah.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. From there, we'll have a meeting with our construction management firm and Holden Tanner sometime later this week to discuss scope and figure out fee and go from there.
If you like, we can kind of reorder some of these things on the agenda so that Seth and Roland can continue.
Oh, excellent.
Sure.
Well, I was having fun.
Oh, you can
You don't have
still
to-
stick around,
you
just
can
figured,
reminisce.
Seth's already on a roll,
Sure,
so,
why not? So, we're skipping to the public works updates then?
yes.
Well then, Roland, take it away.
As you can see, you have 2 new benches here to go with the one that is now installed down at,
There is one in the lobby.
There's another one in the lobby.
another one in the lobby, and we also have another one on the way.
Oh,
It's
wow.
been ordered. Each bench represents 500 pounds of what would be commonly called MSW. That's municipal solid waste. So if you think of that in terms of, that's about a ton worth of, and I don't know what a ton costs, but there you have it. We've saved a ton of plastic. Peterborough's going to benefit by it, by having some new benches. And I guess we still want to put donated by the Lions Club on it. I think you've seen the one that's down in the parking lot. Very small, not really. The thing we're trying to figure out now is where you're going to put them.
That's the
And
question.
that's up to you, it's not up to me. And I'm very glad to be able to, on behalf of the Lions Club, make this donation because I think it's needed. My wife has more than once mentioned to me that once she would meet one of her friends and buy something at Aesop's, go out and try to find a bench, and they were all full of the ones that are there, and the ones that aren't there you can't sit in. So this maybe will help alleviate that problem, for her anyway. So that's pretty much all I've got to say. The rest is in the hands of our capable assistant town administrator.
Excellent.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Let me ask you, Seth, how is it decided where to put that first bench?
The last time Rowan was here, you accepted the bench, the gift, and we talked about a number of potential locations, and the board, I believe at the time, sort of blessed us to work with Roland, and we knew the Riverwalk parking lot sort of made sense. One idea that came up when Roland and I were unloading these benches the other day was possibly Summer Street, where the bike path starts as a parking area there.
Yeah.
That might be a good spot.
Yeah.
But it's been handled sort of casually. If you're thinking something more formal or looking for some more input.
It's unfortunate that we don't have better access to parks in town for these things. It would be nice to have a bench up in the Depot Square Park, Putnam and so on and so forth, but they're not allowed according to the Parks Committee. I don't know what to do about that.
Could ask the question.
Could
ask the question to the Parks Committee, certainly. I have a meeting with the Parks Committee this week, I'd be happy to.
You could ask him.
I could try.
I already did.
I say we leave it in the hands of Seth to make those decisions and ask those questions.
I agree.
Fair enough.
As a backup plan, I think Roland did identify a nice spot in Summer Street, where there are some benches along the path, but nothing
Yeah.
right by the parking area.
Yeah.
For people who have finished their walks or rides, I think it's a great
It's
location.
nice to have a bench along the way as well, for old folks like me who make it halfway through and need to sit down.
So
Anybody.
we'll
Sure.
identify a few locations along that path, and then we'll get Roland's blessing on that.
To pace it.
Thanks for the
You
opportunity
can-
for us to do this, because I think it's very important.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of people in town that like to walk, but there are some people my age who like to, after we walk a little bit, just kind of sit down and take a rest.
Particularly along the river.
Danica and the Master Plan Steering Committee have these survey boards placed around town asking questions. Right now, it's about where you might see transportation improvements or pedestrian improvements. Certainly, a bench is part of pedestrian activities, so maybe that's a line that could be added in part of that survey. Where do you need, you're walking that far, where do you get tired, you need to take a bench for a little, but yeah, so maybe connect with her, see
Will do.
what idea might come up there. Great, yeah, thanks again for another. I was at the recycling center for a couple hours the other day, and I saw Gary filling up his truck with the bags and bags and bags and bags of bags that were collected to.
500 pounds is a lot.
Pretty much filled it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, great. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so several months ago, maybe even a year, it's been quite some time now, there's more?
Oh, yeah, there's more.
I have two more small updates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That Nicole is forcing me to
Sorry.
mention tonight. The first is we were successful in our New Hampshire the Beautiful grant, which we had submitted for some time ago to offset some costs for our glass crushing bucket that went through the CIP process the year before. So we have received $5,000 towards that purchase. So just congratulations to the staff who worked a lot more on that than I did. Gretchen, Allie, I'm not sure if you worked on that one or not. Darren Smith, our recycling manager, and Nate Brown, they all worked on that and were able to secure us $5,000. The second is...
Can I ask you a
Sure,
question, Seth?
yeah, go ahead.
Do we have that flash crushing equipment?
We do, we've begun processing, and we'll be doing more of that throughout the
I
year.
thought we approved the purchase of it,
Yep.
so it's there.
Yep,
Okay.
so this was more of a reimbursement against the
Yeah, I
purchase we
noticed, I
already made.
noticed in the notice there that you have to provide a photograph of it to me.
Yep, right. And that's the second time we received this grant. I think can't remember the exact total, but we received a substantial sum of money from them, I believe back in 2015, from New Hampshire the Beautiful to help us purchase a forklift at the time. I don't remember the exact total, but it was considerably more than this one, so.
Do we have targeted use of this glass yet, or are we just crushing?
We don't, we're crushing it into an aggregate product that could be used as fill. Possibly contractors may want it, we may be able to use it on roadway projects, but we're in the process of at least turning it into something relatively usable.
Make it into something that could be painted along the streets that doesn't wear out for traffic calming.
I'll put that in my notebook.
There you go.
It is reflective.
Next.
All right, and then the second, third, I suppose, item, but was I'm pleased to announce that the Main Street Bridge project has actually won a national award for the best, the Public Works Project of the Year, Historical Restoration and Preservation through the American Public Works Society. One project gets that award per year, and our bridge got it. Combination of contractor, engineering, and owner work on a project like that allowed us to get that great honor. So I'll be going hopefully to San Diego the end of August to accept that award along with the engineers, hopefully contractor, on behalf of the town of Peterborough. So please do. We'll have a plaque showing up sometime soon to commemorate it, and we'll find a place to put it in the townhouse hopefully. She said my office, but big team effort on that one, and I'm very proud of it. So we wanted to share that with the community.
Cool. You know, a lot of people involved in
Wow,
that. Heritage Commission over the years did a lot of work.
Tremendous amount of work in the community for many years, predating my involvement, and then through construction, just an outstanding group of people delivering an amazing project.
Roland, you started working on that project when you were selectman, right?
Yes, yes. The first year that I was on the Board of Selectmen, there were 10 red-listed bridges in the town of Peterborough, and nothing was being done on them. So we knew that there was a state program where 80% of the money would come from the state, 20 from the town. So we started putting pretty large sums of money away to so that we could get started on these bridges. The first one we did was way out on Spring Road. And I said, why are we doing it so far out of town? Well, it was revealed that this one was ready to collapse. I mean, really ready to collapse. But I can think of Gulf Road, that was one. Elm Street was one. The one that goes to McDowell Dam was another one. There were a lot. And Main Street was the one that I was most interested in getting started on. And that's when we were told that it had to go back the way it was, that it wasn't going to be just a steel bridge. And we kind of went along with that, but we knew that it was going to cost more money. We had an estimate for $3 million on that bridge. I'm not going to say what it finally cost, but I know that it was more than $3 million. But I will tell you this, I am very proud to be a Peterborough citizen because of that bridge. That's a fine job. That and the library in concert, boy, you don't get a better town than Peterborough when you do things like that.
Cheers.
Very nice.
Great. Maybe Roland should go out to San Diego instead of.
Want to go on a trip now?
I'll go with you.
I just have to mention that I published a novel last month based on that bridge.
Oh.
And it's called A Literary Guide to Bridge Construction, and it has 50 pictures of the bridge and the library being built, mostly taken from the pedestrian bridge there. I'm not trying to sell it, I'm just trying to say that bridge was a meeting place for people for a couple of years, and my book is about that.
Neat.
Cool.
Yeah, I used to run into people on that bridge
Yeah.
all the time.
You walk across it to get your daily bread.
Yeah. Excellent. That's all that's going on in the DPW?
That's what I'm talking about tonight. We'll be back next week. We got more for you.
Yeah.
You dominated last meeting.
You got one announcement I could tag on to that.
Sure.
So at your last meeting, you heard about the memorial plaques for the veteran, yep.
This is interesting too, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So,
Good job.
so as a result of that meeting, an interested person who really wanted to see those plaques go up commemorating the soldiers who fought and died. He came from Peterborough in the French and Indian War and the American War for Revolution. Two anonymous donors stepped up and donated $2,400 to make sure that those would get done. So it was really great. One of the donors actually is very interested in hopefully seeing additional donations come in, so maybe some work can also get done on the gates, which are right there as well. So which definitely need a little bit of love too. So
That's inspiring.
yeah,
Excellent.
so just a nice thing. Really great to hear about that coming together.
Yeah. All right. We did several, within the last year, we established a subcommittee of the Economic Development Authority for affordable housing studies. And they're kind of running and they have some steam behind them, and it's a proper time to change them to an official committee. So I would go ahead and make the motion that we change the subcommittee to the Affordable Housing Committee, period.
So they would become a full committee of the town and report to us rather than to the EDA, is that the suggestion?
Yes.
Now, there was a housing committee that was established in 1989.
Right.
I don't know when it went defunct, but.
Very quickly after that, they were established to do a study and make a report out, and then once that was completed, they evaporated.
Yeah. And if you've read their newsletters that this committee is sending out, they're currently focusing on ADUs and the hurdles about the outreach and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, doing good work.
Don't we expect a statement of vision, and those sorts of formalities, you might say, as a committee?
So they did put forward one as a subcommittee. I would imagine that they're intending to carry forward that same vision.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that there's no one from the subcommittee to speak to that this evening.
At any rate, I'll second
I
that.
don't think it's a big deal, but it would be nice.
They're probably busy. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, excellent. Anybody here that's going to be appointed or reappointed to something? I will make a blanket appointment, reappointment motion for people for the Community Power Committee, Affordable Housing Committee, and of course the people on the Master Plan Steering Committee, which I liaison to.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Will all the people on the subcommittee have to
Be reappointed as full
Reappointed?
members.
Are
yes.
they aware of that?
Nope, but they will be made aware of that. I'll make sure Danica passes that along to them.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, Susan
More to
has
sign.
signing now, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Way to go.
All right. I would also make a motion that we vote to approve the amended minutes from April 18th, 2023.
I'll second that, too.
All those in favor? Aye. And that officially brings us to a close, I think. Any more good news? A lot of good news. All right, thanks, everyone.
I move that we adjourn. I'd like to do that. Something about that.
Second.
Moving to adjourn?
All in favor?
Yeah. Good luck having anybody argue against that one, Bill.
I'll give it a call, Rowan.
That's great about the bridge.